All right, hello everybody. This is Brandon Gonzalez going to do a brief introduction to how to test the functionality of one of our Fanuc Cert carts and just how to power it on and how to manually jog the robot. And then we'll get into changing the batteries and master and calibration. So first thing you want to do is make sure the robot is turned on. I just flipped this switch here to turn it on. And since we're going to be testing manual functions, we're going to take this key here and turn it to the hand. The next thing we want to do is at our teach pennant, we want to make sure our teach pennant is switched to the on position. That's the two key things to being able to jog the robot, is making sure the key is in the hand position and your teach pennant is turned on. So once this thing gets finished booting up, all right, so now that we have booted up, you'll notice that by default on the screen here, you will have a red fault button. To clear that, just make sure all of your e-stops are not pressed down. They're spring-loaded. So just make sure they are not pressed down. And then there are these dead man switches on the back of the teach pennant. So a lot of people have this misconception that you have to crank these things down to hold them down. You only have to give it a light press until you hear it just barely click. So just that way you're not straining yourself to hold it down. So just a slight half click and then go to your teach pennant and hit the reset button. When you hit this reset button, your fault should be green now, which means we are good to jog. Your default speed will be 10%. You have these percentage up and down buttons here. That's how you can increase your speed or decrease your speed. If you're just testing functionality, probably 30% is good enough for now. To jog the robot, as long as everything's green up here, as far as the fault button's concerned, we're going to go ahead and just hold the shift button and then use our letters here, X, Y, and Z, to navigate jogging the robot. So as you can see, I'm holding the X button. The robot is jogging back and forth. Now I'm doing the Y button. The robot's moving slightly upward and slightly downward. Now I'm doing the Z button, moving in and out. So that is the basic way to be able to jog the robot. To test it in a different type of jogging orientation, this coordination button here, chord, if you press that, it will change the way that the robot jogs. I prefer to test it in world mode so it moves the whole machine versus just one little servo at a time. So if I hold the shift button and jog it, I'm going to bump my speed up a little bit. Now it'll move each servo based on the end of arm tool versus moving just one at a time. And that's it. Once you're done, you can just let go of your dead man switch. It'll give you the fault that your dead man switch is released. And then you can turn the robot off. Next we'll be going into changing the batteries and master and calibrating. All right. So now we're going to get into changing the batteries. Typically what you'll see is a servo-062 alarm that will not clear when you hit the reset button. But on this one, this is obviously going to clear because the batteries and everything have already been changed. But for the sake of the training, we will say that this says SVRO-062 BZAL alarm. That's basically a good indicator that your pulse coder is going to need reset and the batteries are going to need changed. So the key thing with these Fanuc robots is to ensure that your batteries over here that we're going to be changing out are not changed out without power being on. You must have power to the robot on. So you'll turn on your power switch here, make sure it stays on, and then you will take an Allen wrench and you will undo these 4 little bolts here. Once that's done, you'll need a flathead screwdriver like this. There is a plate. There will be 2 flathead screws. You will undo the screws and there will be 4 C batteries inside here. Change them out one at a time so you do not forget the orientation of them. Do not remove all 4 at once because they're all in opposite directions. So change them out one at a time. Once you're done, if you've had me in class, you know my pet peeve is throw the old batteries away immediately so they do not get put back in the box with the new batteries. Once your new batteries are installed, you'll put the plate back on, tighten it down. You do not have to crank it down, just tighten it down with the flathead screwdriver, and then put this plate back on, and then tighten your 4 bolts back up. Again, once that's done, now your robot is going to be stuck in the servo -062 alarm, and it's going to be giving you the same error. So at this point, we need to go ahead and reset our pulse coder, which to do this, if you go into your teach pennant here and hit the menu button and go into next, you have several options here. We're going to use the 0 for next, and then it's going to take you to one that says system, which is number 6. Now it takes you into your system clock display, but if we hit the F1 button for type, these are also touchscreen if you're curious, you'll see several options here. You'll see that there is a master calibration and a DCS. Those two are going to be our important ones for the sake of this training. So the first one we'll go to our master calibration, which is number 3. And you'll see where it says reset PCA, that's for your pulse coder. So you just hit F3 to do that, reset pulse coder alarm, yes. Now what you can do, and you should be able to do, is we should be able to zero out our robot and then master the robot from those positions and then calibrate the system. And what this will do is it'll basically allow your robot to be able to go back to its initial functions prior to the batteries running dead. Once that's all done, we'll need to go into our DCS parameters and change that, but we'll get to there in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to highlight Quick Master here. And then on the robot itself, you'll see these little tick marks along the sides and on the bottom of the robots along these joints. So for example, right here you'll see one. There will be one on the robot itself that will line up with those tick marks. So the X-axis one should almost be lined up now based on its current position. So we want to get these two tick marks as lined up as humanly possible. And then we got 2 here. You'll have 2 up here. You'll have 2 down here and 1 down here. So we basically want to get all of those lined up with each other, and then we will master the robot itself. So I'm going to go ahead and start jogging the robot in the X-axis position to get us lined up. So you just kind of want to, you'll also want to do this in joint mode, sorry. We're going to move one joint at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this X-axis one over here. That looks pretty good. Next I'm going to do the Y-axis. And sometimes you might have to adjust some things so the robot doesn't crash into itself. So I'm going to move the Z-axis up a little bit. We're going to have to do that anyway here shortly. But now I'm moving the Y-axis into place. That looks pretty good. Z-axis, I'm going to go ahead and move this guy into place. Now this one's a little tricky to find. It's up on the top of the robot usually, so get up there and, sorry, I have to squeeze by you. I'm just that good, okay. Next we'll get into the twist arm down here, which looks like it's about spot on. And then our little end of arm tool guy here. Now what it should look like is just an upside down L once you get it lined up correctly. And I think I'm pretty close. Touch that one up a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to straighten my little camera and end of arm tool out. And now we have all of our positions lined up. So all of our different tick marks are all lined up and where they're supposed to be. And again, this is all after you've changed the batteries and reset your PC or PCA alarm. So now what we're going to do here is we're just going to go to Quick Master, and I'm just going to, I like to clear the fault anyway. I'm going to hit enter on Quick Master, and it says Quick Master, yes or no. We're going to do F4 for yes. And notice you'll get a robot not mastered alarm here. So what we might have to do is we might have to go up here to 0 position master and hit enter, master at 0 positions. We're at all of our 0 positions and we verified that. So now I've hit F4. And now we have the robot mastered. The mastered data is all here and the robot is in the 0 position. So it did not let me do the quick master, so we just went ahead and did the 0 position master considering we were at the tick marks. Now I can hit the done button, but first, anytime you master a robot, you have to calibrate it as well. That's a good rule of thumb. So I'm going to go to calibrate and hit enter. Do you want to calibrate, yes or no? We're going to do F4 for yes. Now we say robot calibrated, and it's zeroed out all of our angles, saying that this is the new 0 position. Once you're done with that, go ahead and hit the done button. And now we have to reset that DCS parameter to accept all the changes we made. So if we go back to the type, which is F1, you'll notice that the master cal option is now gone. So to bring that back, this is the tricky part. You have to go into the variables, which is number 2, and then you have to find master cal. Fortunately for us, they're in alphabetical order. So if I hold this shift button and hit the down arrow and go to the M's, this skips a whole page at a time versus just one line at a time. Find the M's for master cal. And right here where it says master enabled, that's what we're looking for. We're going to change this 0 to a 1 and then hit enter. Now when I hit the type button, you'll see that the master calibration block is now back. So we go to number 3, we're back to this menu, and we've done the mastering and the calibrating. So now we just verify that we have that back. We're going to keep that enabled. But we go to type, we go to DCS, and now you'll see where these are all the safe inputs, outputs of the robot to be able to operate. But if we scroll down, you'll see that the mastering parameter, it says changed. We have to accept those changes. So what you do is you just hit the apply button, which is F2, and it asks for your code number to accept these changes. All the cert cards here is 1111. 4 ones. And it's going to load, and then it's going to change that change status to pending. So now you see it says verify that you're okay with this. We're going to hit OK, which is F4. Now if we scroll down, you'll see it says pending changes. Once you've done this, you'll have an indicator up here at the top, cycle power to use the new DCS parameter. So let's go down here, turn our power off. I always count to 5, and then we'll turn our power back on. Now everything's booting up. So we have now powered it back on. So if I hold my dead man switch in and hit reset, you'll notice our fault goes away, and now I can test out jogging the robot. So I do shift, bump my speed up a little bit, and the robot is jogging the way it is supposed to. So we have successfully mastered our robot. And I'm jogging in joint mode. What I'm going to do is just get it to a more useful position. I like to always leave the robots kind of starting out loud instead of leaving it in the giant L. Change it back to joint mode using the chord button. Lower it a little bit. And there we go. We are now complete. We've changed the batteries out, done the calibration, or the mastering and calibration, and then accepted the change in the DCS parameters. Hope this has been helpful.